You're listening to the official start of your NFL week. You're listening to the opening whistle. What's up, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of the opening whistle. I'm Albert Albanese.
Hi, guys. I'm Avi Schiffman.
And we're back, guys. It's been a little bit of a hiatus, but yeah, NFL season ended. Super Bowl came and went. Big free agent signings came and went, and we figured, what's the next time we're going to get together? Obviously, draft time. So here we are, back, and if this is the first time listening, we're going to be talking a lot about the NFL today. That's what we talk about. It's what we do. And if you're looking to see where you can find all the other shows, just go to facebook.com/the Slam Sessions Podcast Network or Twitter @the Slam Sessions. So now, Avi, where can they find you on Twitter?
At Avi Schiffman 88.
Beautiful. So just go and follow all this stuff. This way you can keep up to date with what we're going to be doing, which is going to lead to a very busy NFL season. Now, to start off, I mean, let's face it, there's been no huge major breaking free agent signings, since we kind of last left. And then out of nowhere, two of the biggest running backs get signed. Well,
two Hall of Famers.
Two Hall of Famers.
Future Hall of Famers.
And to an extent, a third not a Hall of Fame, but a third major running back that could make a little bit of interesting impact of where he went. So we'll start off with the one that I guess isn't the major news. Jamaal Charles signing with the Denver Broncos. Denver's had a notoriously, big time share, in their backfield, and now it looks like maybe Jamaal Charles might become their lead back.
Yeah, I think a lot of their offense. I mean, if he can do anything like he used to do, I think that team is a scary team, in my opinion. They have quarterback questions, but we don't know how healthy he is. He's had the ACL, but it was a big pickup for them.
I completely agree. And we talk about the quarterback situation. We're gonna veer off topic just really quick. Tony Romo retired. Avi, how do you feel about this?
I'm happy. I'm happy he went out. A Cowboy. I'm happy to see him, do TV. It's going to be awesome to see. It's better off than him going to another team. I think he did the right thing. I think he did the right thing for his career. Listen, let's be honest. Do you think he really was going to win a Super Bowl? Probably not. But I think he did the right thing for himself. And, that's all you can do.
I mean, you see a guy who gets signed with a team like the Broncos or the Texans and, be a legitimate contender to a Super Bowl. But, I mean, he went out on his own terms. He went out with a career just being a Cowboy. And, I mean, it's admirable.
Yeah, it's definitely admirable. And, how can you blame him to do what he's doing? I mean, how many guys can say, they go out, they have a great NFL career, and then they get offered an opportunity to do what he's doing? Not many. Well, he might be going for a golf career. I don't know if you heard. He's trying out for the U.S. Open. That'd be pretty cool. He's a pretty good golfer from what I hear. I mean, it's gonna be hard to make the U.S. Open, but he did a great thing last year, letting Dak take the reins. He had to. He came out with his statement, and and let's hope that. He makes, he puts Dak into that, maybe Dak will be the next Tony Romo. Hopefully he'll win a Super Bowl, but it looks like Dak is going to be, because I'm sure Romo helped him a lot. I'm sure he helped having that veteran presence.
I can't see that, Romo would be selfish to not want to help a guy like Dak, so I think you're probably right.
And listen, hey, maybe he'll come back. That's what he says. I doubt it, but maybe he'll come back.
Well, I mean, it's been interesting. There's been a couple of big major free agent quarterbacks. Two of them now retired. Jay Cutler looks like he's taken a position as an analyst too. And not for nothing, I know a lot of people scoff and they laugh a little bit, but the league is so quarterback deprived right now. It's crazy to know that guys like Jay Cutler, Tony Romo, Mark Sanchez, these guys don't have a home.
And the Bears aren't even happy with their rookie, Trubisky. They got booed at the draft, so but they really want Jay Cutler back.
Well, we'll get into that, a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit. I think I know maybe a little bit why they were booed so much, but I don't know if it was actually the pick or the way they went about making the pick. But we'll delve into that a little bit later. The other two big free agent signings, we'll start off with the one that, was the most surprising. Marshawn Lynch comes out of retirement to play for the Raiders.
Yeah, instantly when I saw this, first of all, Marshawn Lynch is, first of all, he's from that area, which is cool enough. He's from Oakland. But Isn't Marshawn Lynch like Raiders? Like you see the black and silver. Isn't he Raiders?
He
Like
fits.
he fits so
like a
perfectly,
glove.
right?
It's perfect.
And you know what? He's going to come back. I really feel he's going to come back, and he's going to be Marshawn Lynch. I really believe it.
The
guy's a monster.
Look, here's the thing. Here was my thing about Lynch. When he hung up the cleats, I thought that this was going to be one of those scenarios where, hey, injuries took a toll on me, and I just don't want to be that guy who goes out there and embarrasses myself. But man, a year off. The freshest of fresh legs. The guy will get back into football shape in no time, and he will run people over.
Any team would take Marshawn Lynch on their team. I really believe he's
Absolutely.
a monster. But like I said, he fits the Raiders so well. And going to the last few years in Oakland, he's going to bring a smile to all the fans' faces, even though they're not happy about them leaving, which is ridiculous. But I think he's going to have a monster year. He's going to be great with them.
This to me puts the Raiders on the radar as being not just a playoff bound team, but a team that's going to make it pretty deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, you bring him in, you lose Latavius Murray, but he's they're pretty similar right now at this stage in their career.
I agree.
But yeah, I agree. Derek Carr's going to be coming back from injury.
Yep.
But Lynch is that's all I see. Him with the visor. He is Raiders. It's going to be really cool to see. I want to get a Lynch jersey. I'll buy one.
I've always wanted one. I was going to get one because Seattle's actually, for those of you who don't know, Seattle's kind of like my second favorite team. I actually liked Seattle when Leon Washington left the Jets and went to the Seahawks. I started watching the Seahawks because I just love to follow Leon Washington because he was just one of my favorite players. And then I just kind of grew into liking the Seahawks a little bit.
Now you're gonna like the Raiders. You follow Lynch. You like Lynch.
I'm gonna watch a lot more of the Raiders than
I'm gonna root for them.
Everybody's
Everybody's gonna root for the Raiders. Especially them leaving Oakland. It's just.
It'd be great to see them really be very successful this season. And with an addition of a guy like Lynch, you can see how they could definitely happen.
And the AFC West, they're gonna better watch out for him. These defenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And then so one of the bigger surprises, it's not just where he went. It's not just what it was the contract. It's a lot of surprises. Adrian Peterson signs with the Saints.
Very interesting pickup. I don't know. See, compared to Lynch, I don't know what Adrian Peterson. Still, I would take him any day of the week. He's still one of the best running backs ever, and he's a monster too. It's just an interesting pickup for them. They lose Brandon Cooks, but him and Drew Brees. Maybe he'll help their running game, I would hope.
My thing is that, we've addressed a lot of stuff about the Saints and their lackluster defense, which has been their Achilles heel. And I feel like, yes, they went out and they got a great stud, one of the best running backs in the history of the game, arguably the greatest running back in the history of football. But they're not addressing what they need to address, and that's to bulk that defense up to, look, let's face it, Drew Brees, one of the most prolific quarterbacks. You talk top 5 in the NFL. Drew Brees' name is always going to be mentioned in that category. But he's not going to be able to be Drew Brees, and Adrian Peterson's not going to be able to be Adrian Peterson if they're going to be playing 36-32 shootouts and be on the losing end of half of them.
Yeah, and it's also that division is very tough. You
Absolutely.
got the NFC champs. You got the Panthers who will be back probably, and the Buccaneers. So it's a tough division. Right now, I still put the Saints are at the bottom of the division.
Even with Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I can't see Adrian Peterson helping him that much. I can't see him breaking out for 1,500 yards this year. I don't see that. But
and it's interesting. We talk about the Bucs, who they may be the dark horse in that division. They have the best wide receiver pair in the NFL right now.
And they added somebody in the draft, O.J. Howard, which we talk about after that, but. Yeah, they're dangerous. That division. That is
the most stacked division in the NFL.
But wouldn't you agree the Saints are probably at the bottom of the pack now still?
I think so.
And especially losing Brandon Cooks.
They lost one of their bigger playmakers. Breeze always finds a way to make other guys,
Breeze is always amazing, yeah.
Yeah, but by that same point, just the addition of Peterson doesn't make me sit back and think, great, they have Adrian Peterson, they're going to do it now.
He's not going to take them over the top. I don't believe it.
No.
And
not, like you said, not in that division.
Breeze will be Breeze, because he's always Breeze. But we'll see how they pair together. It's going to be an interesting pairing.
I agree, because they're going to have to adapt to a different style of play now. It's going to be
weird to see Peterson in a Saints uniform.
It's going to be weird to see Peterson in anything else. It's
yeah.
going to be weird. All right. Well, those are the bigger, the bigger free agent pickups.
And also, the Saints are opening at the Vikings this year.
Yeah, which is cool. Such a cool moment to see that, man. That's perfect.
You would think that Peterson's going to want to have like a 200-yard game.
If they don't feed him the rock in that game, they don't know what they're doing.
Right. So that'd be cool to see.
So let's move on to the NFL draft. This happened a couple weeks ago, and ramifications were pretty huge. We alluded to the Mitch Trubisky pick. You said, hey, maybe the fans aren't too crazy about who they got. I think it's the way that they went about getting him. We knew from the beginning that the Browns weren't going to pick a quarterback.
Right.
They came straight out and said it. So why are we going to trade?
They gave away like 3 picks for one spot. They went up 1 spot.
Right.
And the Niners, listen, maybe, we don't know, but maybe another team was trying to get in there too. Maybe not the Niners, but the Niners made out well in this trade. To move 1 spot, they got like 3 picks for this.
Absolutely.
For a guy who, in my opinion, the guy played, I think, 13 games, started 13 games in college. And it reminded me, I wrote down here in my notes, it reminds me a lot of another guy who started, I think, 13 games. They traded up to get him in the draft. Remember a former Jet who made the AFC Championship game in the first 2 years? Mr. Mark Sanchez. It reminds me a lot of it.
Yep.
I don't know if, he's a lot more talented, arm-wise, but it reminds me of that. Instantly, it reminded me of that.
I kind of agree. And here's the thing. Look, I've been a notorious Sanchez defender as a Jets fan for the reason that but the thing is that he's not a good NFL quarterback.
He'll be remembered as
and that's what he's going to be remembered for the rest of his life. It's and that's sad because the guy went to 2 AFC Championship games in his first 2 years. He was accomplished to a point, but that you take away that offensive line, look what happens.
People
and now
people will remember him for that, but really Butt Fumble was like that. Was like
no. Let's be honest.
Okay,
they will remember him. They will remember him for the Butt Fumble.
Okay,
absolutely. And that is the most showed NFL play in the history of football.
Yeah.
But now you have a guy like Trubisky who comes in, who's lauded, has a lot of hype, and we know Chicago has had their struggles at quarterback. Jay Cutler has been hot and cold. He was injured last season. It didn't look like he had a chance of coming back and being a starter this year. Obviously, he gets the Bears cut ties from him, and now they are in the unenviable position of having a rookie quarterback as their day one starter. And I'm sorry, I don't like that.
Right. Well, we don't know if he's going to be their starter game one. They gave Mike Lennon a lot of money. We thought he was going to be the starter. We don't know, but I don't. You can't really. I don't know if you can blame them. Listen, you need a quarterback to win in this league. You know that, and why not? Why not take a shot? Even if you're GM, if you're going to you're going to get fired if it doesn't work out. Why not take a shot? See what he's got. He doesn't have the experience, but you know what? I don't blame them for doing this because what other options were they going to have? Mike Lennon wasn't going to make the playoffs for them.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think anybody on this team right now is going to make the playoffs for them. I don't think that they're a playoff caliber team.
They lose
just
Alshon
all
Jeffrey
around.
too.
They lost
Forte
a couple of years ago. Alshon Jeffrey this year, their best receiver. They don't have the talent on both sides of the ball to be that team. So Mike Lennon for me was the perfect pick for them, a mediocre quarterback for a mediocre team who I thought were just going to build through the draft. But instead of building through the draft this year, they wasted these big picks to get a guy like Trubisky. And this could be one of those things where it could ruin a guy's career by being drafted to a pretty good, to a terrible team.
Right. But he also could be, we don't know. He could be a very good quarterback. We just don't.
Maybe he is, but when you don't have
I think he went a little high because I think, in my opinion, there are a bunch of the few quarterbacks better than him that they could have gotten the Bears. Okay, but they must have liked him more than anybody. They must have seen something that nobody else saw.
Well, let's dig into it. Who do you think in that draft was better?
Well. We talked about this. I texted you before the draft. Deshaun Watson. I think I see a lot of Dak in him. I didn't say he's going to be the best quarterback. I think he's a winner, because he won in college. He made the championship game 2 straight years. He beat Alabama. He torched them 2 years in a row. Alabama, how great defensively they were.
Absolutely.
Okay, you got Jordan Howard. And then this guy, Patrick Mahomes, who the Chiefs traded up for. They see a lot of talent in him.
And a smart move by the Chiefs.
I haven't watched him. Right, a smart move by the Chiefs. Absolutely. They need a quarterback for the future.
Alex Smith is good. And in my opinion, Alex Smith may be the most underrated quarterback in the NFL, but it still doesn't put him at an elite level. I think he's very underrated.
Right. He is underrated, but I never thought he never could take a team to the Super Bowl.
I don't think
he was good enough. He's a good quarterback, a very good quarterback. It's just he couldn't take them over the top. You got a guy, Josh Dobbs, who I'm calling. He can be a great one. I really believe it. I liked him in college too. I watched him he went to Pittsburgh. Maybe he's the heir apparent for Big Ben.
And that's a really big pick there because, like you said, he went to Pittsburgh. Roethlisberger has been mulling retirement. He stays around for one more year. And if this guy steps up and learns enough from a guy like Roethlisberger, which would, look, say what you want about him. The guy's won Super Bowls. He's always in the playoffs. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. This could be a huge pick for the Steelers.
Absolutely. But you heard it from me, Josh Dobbs. I really feel he could be the next great one. So you have 3 quarterbacks there, but definitely, the point is to win. And I would go with the guys who had more experience. The guy played 13 games. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. They must have seen something, like I said, that nobody else saw. So we will see what happens.
I mean, I agree. Who else did you have on your radar as being some of the bigger picks that were made?
We could talk about the Jets. We could talk about your Jets. What do you think about your team not picking a quarterback?
I am going to say this with an utmost amount of confidence. This is the first year that, as a Jets fan, and I want to say maybe 7 to 8 years, that I've actually been happy with the outcome of the draft. The Jets didn't waste a pick on a quarterback because, let's face it, whatever quarterback they're going to get is going to be ruined this year with their terrible offensive line. So why waste a chance when you can plug in?
He didn't have to play.
Even still, for the last 6 years, let's run it down. They picked Hackenberg. They picked Geno Smith. They picked Mark Sanchez. These guys keep picking quarterbacks over and over again, and they don't, and they never wind up working out. So with that being said, they went and they said, where do we need some help? What is our strength? Let's strengthen our defense. They go out, they get a safety, they get a cornerback. They're filling in the slots where they feel that they were weak. And I think that this year, if the Jets, they keep saying this isn't a rebuilding year, but through that draft, you can see they are rebuilding. They are putting together an elite defense so that maybe in a couple of years, when some of these other guys are, they have a little bit more money to spend, they can go out and get a halfway decent quarterback, and they can go out and get another wide receiver that can complement.
Well, I think that they're looking towards the future, towards next year in the quarterback class, because there are a couple of good ones probably out there.
I completely agree.
But I'm thinking, let's say there wasn't that great quarterback out there next year. Would they be thinking different? Would they pick a quarterback this year? I have to think that they would be looking at next year because they know this year they're not going to be very good. They know they're going to get a top 10 pick next year.
Here's the thing. A part of me believes that maybe you might be right, but the other part of me is that there were some pretty talented quarterbacks in this that were drafted lower than where the Jets drafted. The Jets could have picked up and decided that they weren't going to go that route. I think that the front office and Mike McCanahan, and I give him credit because I think when you look at the way the Jets have drafted for the past couple of years, it's always been quarterback heavy. They've been quarterback happy, and it hasn't worked out. Let's take a break this year. Let's just not worry about drafting a signal caller, and let's just go out and strengthen our team in other ways.
I get that, but I just really believe you need a quarterback. Look at Dak. Look at just not that I'm
no, I agree.
Look at Dak. Look what they got out of it.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think the Jets know that there's going to be no chance that you say you need a quarterback to win in this league. They're not going to win this year. So why waste your time?
I understand, but I wouldn't want to wait. At least groom somebody, bring somebody in.
They've done that for the past 3 years. They've groomed Bryce Petty. They've groomed.
But I don't think those guys were as good as the guys you have right now. I don't think that they had the potential these guys had. I really don't believe that.
I mean, look, I agree with you.
Hackenberg was just like ridiculous pick, I think, last year.
I mean, they could have had Dak Prescott instead of Christian Hackenberg, but let's just not even go there right now. I don't even want to get into that because I'll cry.
Well, it could have ruined his career. We don't know what could happen.
Dak Prescott would have
went into a great situation.
He did. He would have never been. He would have never been successful.
You could see how talented the guy is.
And I agree with you. I do. I just think that this was a smart move from the Jets. Instead of wasting a pick on a quarterback that was probably going to wind up, and this is the same thing as I said about the Browns and even Trubisky when it comes to the Bears. These could be quarterbacks who may be talented that are going to be ruined by being put on terrible teams. So instead of ruining a guy's career, what they did is they bumped up players where they needed them to be. And with my utmost confidence, I say I am so happy. The last time I was this happy about the Jets drafting was the year where I actually attended the draft, and the Jets drafted D'Brickashaw Ferguson and Nick Mangold as their first 2 picks.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
This is the way I feel.
Okay.
I think they did a good job.
Well, you're the Jets fan. You know what you want. That's fine. I just really believe, you got Deshaun Watson, who went into a great situation, in my opinion, to Houston. I love him there.
Let me tell you something. I mean, that is one of the, I think, top 5 picks of the draft, right?
I agree. And the Houston traded up to get him.
Which was smart. See, they made the right decision, unlike the Bears, who traded a lot to get to somebody that they probably didn't need to trade that much for.
You go to a good defense. I'm telling you, Deshaun Watson reminds me a lot of Dak Prescott. Okay, he reminds me a lot of him, and you got these two guys in Texas now running Texas. So, and Deshaun Watson, I assume, is going to be the starter week 1.
It looks like it.
It looks like
Who else do they
he's
have?
ready. But let's say these guys are, these quarterbacks, work out. Are you going to be sad? Let's say they all like pretty good. Let's say Deshaun Watson becomes like a really good quarterback, like Dak. Let's say he has a big season. Would you still be okay with the Jets picking?
100%. 100%.
As long as you're okay with it.
Because the thing is that last year I wasn't happy because when they picked a guy like Hackenberg, I had sat back and I was like, why? What are you doing by drafting another quarterback when you have Bryce Petty, where you have Geno Smith, where you have Ryan Fitzpatrick? There's so many quarterbacks on this roster. Why are we drafting another one? You didn't give Petty a chance. Fitzpatrick, they gave him a big contract for no reason. Geno Smith, to a point, has proven that he is not an NFL starter. Right. Why are I just think that they were overburdened with mediocrity.
And you know what? I agree. Jamaal Adams, like everybody says, he could have been the number 1 pick in the draft. So he most likely is going to be a very good player. So that's all you can ask for. As long as he's a great player, and he's going to help their defense.
Exactly, and that's what I think the Jets need. They need to really go back to being where they were. We brought up Mark Sanchez before. The year that Sanchez was the quarterback and got drafted and got put into that situation, he was put in a good situation because the Jets had one of the most elite defenses in the NFL. With the way the Jets are filling this out, they can be that way. Again this year. And I think I told you last week, I think I said the Jets were going to win 4 games.
Yeah.
And you said you didn't even know if that was going to be the case. I think this draft proves that they can win 4 games just by their defense being that solid.
I disagree still. I still don't believe it. Listen, they're oh man. I mean, listen, first of all, who's the Jets starting quarterback next year?
What you mean?
Week 1, who's their quarterback? If you had to bet.
I hate saying this, but my money's on Josh McCown.
Josh McCown. Okay. I mean, oh man. I mean, I'm just trying to think right now. I don't have their schedule pulled up here, but they're losing to the Patriots twice. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You want to pull up their schedule? Let's go ahead. We can go through it. And then Dolphins are a very good team, much better team.
They're a much better team.
I just think just because of their quarterback situation, I just don't see them winning. I don't see them winning 4 games. I really don't see that at all. I think that them and I think Cleveland's going to be a little better, but them and Cleveland, I think they're the 2 worst teams in the NFL. So
yeah, they look. Let's face it, they're at the bottom, man. They really are.
They are, and you know what? It's going to be a tough season to be a Jets fan. But all you can hope for is that your top picks are your draft picks are good.
Okay, I think they can beat the Bills.
Yeah.
They play the Raiders. They're going to lose. They play the Dolphins. They can beat the Jaguars.
Okay.
They can beat the Browns.
Jaguars are better. Okay. Browns. Okay. Yeah.
Patriots are not going to win. Dolphins, they're probably not going to win. Falcons, they're not going to win. The Bills, they're probably not going to win 2 games against them. They're not going to beat the Bucs. They're not going to beat the Panthers. They're not going to beat the Chiefs. They're not going to beat the Broncos.
That's a rough schedule.
They could beat the Saints.
Okay. Where's that game?
I don't know.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's in New York.
Okay.
They could beat the Chargers.
Okay.
So
4 wins.
They can win 4 games.
Around that. They could. I don't think they will, but they could. That will be a successful season for you. I'm happy for you. But
it's not going to be a successful season, but it's at least
all you're hoping is for like a guy like Jamaal Adams. See how he plays.
I
hopefully
agree.
He dominates on defense. He's a great safety. He looks like he could be. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, we spent some time talking about the Jets. Let's talk about the Cowboys. What did you think about their draft?
I like the draft a lot. They addressed their needs. They lost like everybody on defense.
Right.
Well, people forget also that the Cowboys are getting back Jalen Smith.
Yes.
Who they drafted in the 2nd round last year, who was done, which I loved. It was an amazing pick, and he was a top 5 talent before he got hurt.
Right.
And they picked him up. I was happy. That was a great pick for them. They have him. So let's just say they bring him on. Hopefully he's healthy. They address the defensive line. They get a few corners. They drafted a corner who has some off the field issues, but Mel Kiper, I was watching that. He says that he's one of the best cover corners in the draft who fell. So that's a good thing. And they drafted another corner. I think, and they drafted a Cole Beasley twin. A guy in North Carolina who I love that pick. Also, he broke like all records at North Carolina. So he's like a Cole Beasley, which I love. All right, so the Cowboys did a good job.
Understatedly, the Cowboys had one of the better drafts.
And the Cowboys do draft well. As much as you want to bash Jerry Jones, I don't know if he makes the pick. I think his son has more control. But the Cowboys have drafted really well over the years. You cannot deny that.
The thing is that the Patriots get a lot of credit for being one of those teams that draft really well. I think you can see by this past year with the Cowboys coming out at the top of that division, they drafted really well because that team was built through that draft.
I'm still worried about the defense. It's obviously not their strength.
Of course.
But look at their offensive line. all through the draft, built through the draft. You know, you got Dez, you got Zeke, you got Dak. Their whole team is built through the draft. They did a great job drafting over the years, and they address their needs in defense. That's it. Their offense is fine. You know, I don't think they did do much on offense. Our offensive line is going to be great still.
Yeah, of course.
Just, you know, hopefully the rookies, you know, step up because they're going to have to step up. The corners, they lost their whole secondary this year. So, you know, overall it was a good draft for the Cowboys again.
Now, you know, building off of that, you want to name a couple other teams you think drafted really well?
Oh, well, obviously, my favorite pick, my Rookie of the Year pick is McCaffrey to the Panthers.
I mean, what a smart pick.
I love him. He's going to be, I mean, he's not Danny Amendola. He's, from Danny Woodhead.
There you go.
But like Superman compared to him. He is Danny Woodhead. He is going to have, I think, an amazing season. You know, people thought he was going to they didn't know where he was going to be drafted in the draft. But I love that pick for him for Cam Newton. It helps him out so well. He can catch the balls out of the backfield.
Right, and you know that one of the things that the Panthers have been lacking really is a number one running back.
Yeah,
and
he's like a Danny Woodhead type.
Right, and that's the thing. You know, now you can have somebody in a timeshare, but when you have a guy that comes out of the backfield that can still catch passes, can be on the field maybe 60% of the time. Not your number one running back, but somebody who can just go out and help the offense, help a guy like Cam save his legs for later in the season. Yeah. Man, you can't ask for a lot more.
Well, right away I thought Rookie of the Year. He's my Rookie of the Year pick, but there's going to be some other guys like Fournette to the Jaguars. You know, they picked up running back. He's going to help.
Which, let's face it, the Jaguars have been, an understated. They've been a disaster. It seems like every year
they're so talented. They have so many talented young guys.
They have so many good players.
So
on their team.
Tom Coughlin's there now running the show.
Yes, and that's a big pickup for the Jaguars. I think that the Jaguars might be a little disappointing this year, but man, I'm telling you, the Jaguars could be a contender next year.
But they're still the Jaguars. That's like every year you say that. But Blake Bortles also is like.
Well, Blake Bortles reminds me a lot of a guy like Phillip Rivers. Talented, pretty good.
He's still not as good as Phillip Rivers. Right. Okay, I see it in that way, but I don't think he's that as talented as Phillip Rivers.
Oh, absolutely not. I think Phillip Rivers is immensely talented.
Phillip Rivers is still a really good quarterback.
He absolutely is.
Well, speaking of Phillip Rivers, I don't know what the Chargers were doing. They picked Mike Williams. Well, I don't think he was at the top of. I think he's like an Alshon Jeffrey type, just like a deep threat.
Yeah.
I didn't see their direction they were going. I didn't like that pick. I think he's going to be kind of a bust, Mike Williams. But,
in that situation, when you have a guy like Rivers is a kind of a quarterback that can manufacture, a wide receiver into making him look a little bit better than he really is. By that same point, he's also not Tom Brady, who can make me look like the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you're right. That could be a bust. But by the same point, I guess what you're trying to do is you're trying to create an offensive, an offensive scheme that benefits your top player. And let's face it, their top player is Phillip Rivers.
Oh, yeah. Well, also, we can talk about the top pick, Myles Garrett, who everybody thinks obviously is going to be like, the last two defensive linemen that were picked number one overall were Clowney and Mario Williams. So they
you're in good company.
Mario Williams, he's a future Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
I would think. And Clowney's, starting to break out.
He was phenomenal last year.
But again, he's going to the Browns. So
Right, which is, that
shouldn't take away from his talent. I mean,
it doesn't. And they made a smart move. This is a player that they can't ruin.
Right.
If he goes out there and plays the best that he possibly can, he's just gonna look good. He's only gonna benefit the team.
Exactly.
It's not gonna be like them going out and getting a quarterback who, if they can't protect him, is not gonna play well.
Right. Well, they draft, and the Browns also addressed needs. They got a tight end. They got a lot of picks.
Really interesting. They cut Gary Barnidge. Gary Barnidge was a pretty solid tight end. I think that he could go to a team. He could help out any team.
I agree. Yeah, that was surprising. But the Browns did a good job this year. They had a lot of picks. They addressed a lot of needs. Jabril Peppers, who was also like, where does he play? Where is he going to play? We'll see how he does. He could be like either really good or a bust. He's like one of those guys, in my opinion. But the Browns did a good job. We'll see. There's a quarterback situation. They drafted a quarterback,
As usual.
And Cody Kessler, who played pretty well in some games last year.
Look, Kessler wasn't, I like him. He wasn't terrible. Even they had the other guy, Kevin Hogan, who came in for a couple of games. He didn't look, awful. They looked a lot better than, McCown did, at points. But McCown, again, he's a journeyman. He's a veteran. I think the Jets just got Ryan Fitzpatrick 2.0.
Yeah.
But McCown is not a terrible quarterback for playing for such a crap team.
No,
he did pretty well. But they have no offensive
You know he's
talent.
going to get hurt. McCown's going to get hurt
Of course, he always
eventually.
does.
He's going to get some concussion or something. So, but you got
the Jets hurt him last year.
You got a few other quarterbacks out there. Maybe it's time for them to play, but it's going to be rough. But also a guy like Corey Davis. I mean, I don't know much about him. He went 5th to the Titans from Western Michigan. I mean, I didn't watch the guy play once.
Neither have I. I don't know a lot about him.
I mean, that's also like maybe he's going to help out Mariota, which his team is on the rise, which you think.
Look, I'm telling you right now, I think the Titans are a playoff contender next year. I know that was my underdog pick for making the playoffs a couple of podcasts ago.
That's going to be a competitive division this year.
It's going to be. And
great.
I think that the Titans have the talent that they can actually do it this year.
It's going to be very competitive division. And I think, Deshaun Watson, I also think, I mean, he can, with that defense, you put him on that team with that defense, and J.J. Watt coming back healthy. Agree. So I love that one. Also, so we were talking about the Buccaneers. You got Mike Evans, you got Deshaun Jackson, and then they draft possibly another guy who people think is the best player in the draft, in O.J. Howard, the tight end.
I just can't believe how
Jameis Winston has nothing to complain about.
Not at all.
If he doesn't have one of those MVP type seasons, he's got to. He's got to have it this
year. And here's the thing, there's always going to be that competition between who was the better pick in the position. Was it Winston? Was it Mariota? They went 1 and 2. Everybody didn't know who was the better quarterback. They played their first game against each other. They both started. They both been marred in a little bit of controversy as maybe not living up to the potential that they had. And let me tell you something. The Buccaneers have addressed every issue they possibly could have with Jameis Winston, and if I could be the quarterback of that team and win 5 games.
I mean, Jameis Winston just went up in fantasy wise. Oh man, he's already
Jameis Winston is
top 5 quarterback
is absolutely a top 5 quarterback just by the talent that's around him. I guarantee you that people are not going to be looking at him. People who aren't really big fantasy fans, and people like me and you are going to eat him up in like round 4. Where, everybody else is going after, I want Drew Brees, or I'd rather take Phillip Rivers over him. He's proven. No, Jameis Winston is going to be a monster this year.
We were talking about that. It's the best 1-2 punch right now, Mike Evans and him. But you add O.J. Howard
to the
mix.
Absolutely.
How are you going to cover those guys? How are you going to cover them?
And that's the thing. The Bucs, who are the running backs for the Bucs?
We got Doug Martin still.
Exactly. So at this point, it's a guy like Doug Martin. Maybe he's at the end of his career.
Yeah, maybe he'll be a sneaky good this year.
But I'm saying, they don't need him to do much. So maybe this is the payoff for a guy like Doug Martin to have a breakout year too.
Well, that division is going to be great. Also, but the Bucs have to take a step up. I think they got to make the playoffs this year.
I think if the Bucs don't make the playoffs, if the Bucs don't make the playoffs, it's just going to be indicative of how competitive that division is going to be.
Well, it's going to be listen, 3 teams can come out of that division. You don't know. The Panthers should be better, and you got the Falcons, who are probably still the best team in that division.
Right.
Are
they? At this point, are they?
I don't know.
I think
I don't know.
I think the Bucs might be better.
Oh, you think they could be better, but you got the NFC champions there. I don't know. They haven't really lost anything.
I cannot wait to see the Panthers play the Bucs. Whatever that game, whenever that game is, that is going to be.
We're going to get them twice. So
just that first game though is just going to be. I think it's going to be indicative on where that season goes.
And Cam Newton, he's got to come back strong. He's got to break. He's got to come back strong.
Of course.
He had a just a fluke season, in my opinion.
And I think that whole team just had a bad season. It wasn't just Cam; it was the entire team. And I don't think we let that happen again.
I think they've probably got the division with the best quarterbacks. 4 quarterbacks in the division. Look at the division.
They have
how many passing yards? How many passing yards average for the season are you going to have this year for these guys?
You know that your division is strong when we're sitting there and we're looking at it and going, Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints will be the cellar dwellers in the division.
Yeah.
Who would probably win almost. I mean, the Saints could probably win 3 other divisions in the NFL.
Right. You got 4 Pro Bowlers. You got Hall of Famers. You got future Hall of Famers, and that's look at that. Look at the quarterbacks in that division. It's pretty sick.
It really is. That whole division. That's gonna be so much fun to watch every one of those divisional games.
Yeah. So also the Redskins, a guy who fell, Jonathan Allen. Another guy who was supposed to be a top 5, he fell for, I don't know, whatever reason it did. He was a top 5 talent. Redskins got a guy at 17, which is a steal. I mean, I don't like seeing it as a Cowboy fan, but so that's another guy. And then J.J. Watt's brother got drafted in the first round by the Steelers. I love that too. That
was interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. I really hope that we get a game with the both of them.
Yeah, they're playing this year.
They are.
But
perfect.
They're not going against each other, obviously, but. They're not.
But still, just seeing them both on the field, there's going to be a Watt on almost every play.
And also another guy, Reuben Foster. people can say that he can be the next Patrick Willis for the Niners. He dropped to the last pick in the first round. So a guy like Reuben Foster, who I kind of wanted the Cowboys to take, because the Cowboys usually take these risky guys, the guys with character issues. But, that's another guy. It could be a potential steal. And I love what the Niners did in the draft also.
We'll talk really quick about this. San Francisco, they have quarterback issues, obviously, more so than a lot of other teams in the league. And they didn't go out and address that in the draft. They didn't go out and get a quarterback. But they addressed a lot of other positions where they needed help. What do you see for a team like the 49ers? I mean, there's a lot of controversy going around. Kaepernick doesn't get re-signed by any NFL team.
So we got Matt Barkley. Who's their other quarterback? I think Matt Barkley might. First of all, Matt Barkley played pretty well for the Bears last year. I like Matt Barkley. I
mean, the thing is that I don't see him as an NFL. He's not a starter. Okay. He reminds me of a guy like Sanchez.
Okay, he's pretty good, but no, I love what the Niners did. They drafted, they got Solomon Thomas, who's maybe the best defensive lineman in the draft, and then you get a middle linebacker who's got all the talent in the world. So, remember what they did, when they drafted Patrick Willis, back in the day. But I think they're on the rise. Also, they have new management, they have a new coach. Kaepernick's gone. That distraction is gone. They're a team, in rebuild mode, obviously, but they're not. I think they're a team on the rise. They're going to need a quarterback. Maybe next year they're going to get their quarterback, but I think they're going to be okay this year.
This is a very tricky subject to broach, but we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. What do you think the future of Colin Kaepernick is?
Well, I heard recently that the Cowboys were interested in him. I wouldn't really want him. Listen, he is talented enough to play quarterback in the NFL. He's better than most backups in the league. He'd probably be one of the better backups in the league. I think, in my opinion, for him not to get signed for that reason alone, the only reason he wouldn't be signed is because he couldn't play quarterback. He's not good enough. But I don't think that's the case. I
agree.
I think it's ridiculous that a team's not going to sign him for what happened last year.
And he did say he's not going to do it again this year.
Right, he's not going to do it again. I think in my heart of hearts he will be signed. I think he will be signed. He's good enough to play even a backup quarterback, and you saw what he can do as a starter too. He went to the Super Bowl. How many quarterbacks go to the Super Bowl?
This is my thing on Kaepernick. There was a really big push when the Jets signed Tim Tebow a few years ago that Mark Sanchez would be starting quarterback 1 and Tebow would be quarterback 1A, where they would cycle him into different plays to use his legs to be beneficial, almost use him like an extra running back as of sorts. I mean, how many teams could benefit from a guy like Kaepernick coming in and being an asset on the field with especially maybe a team that is really quarterback needy.
Yeah. And he's been to the playoffs more than once. He's been to 2 NFC Championship games. How many? And he could be a guy to help a young quarterback. He's been there before in the big games. Maybe the Jets. I don't know if the Jets will bring him in, but the guy is good enough to still play quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, I think the fact that the Jets went after McCown shows that they didn't really have a lot of interest in Kaepernick, and I think a lot of Jets fans, and me included, I don't see he's not the right fit for that team. Right. If he was the better fit for what the Jets are trying to accomplish, then yes, I get it. But the Jets have they're highlighted. They're 2 strong running backs, Matt Forte and Bilal Powell. You don't need another guy who's going to be taking reps away from him.
He needs to go to a team with an established quarterback, like a team even like the Saints, like a team that he can just I don't know, not learn under. He's already been there, but he's going to go to a team with an established quarterback, maybe even like Seattle. That may be a good fit as a backup. But
yeah, he'd actually be a perfect backup in Seattle for somebody like Russ Wilson, who they play similar to.
If they want to run some wildcat plays, he can do that.
I agree.
He's still good enough. I just think for that reason alone, I don't know what the reason is, but if he's not going to get signed for that reason, I think it's kind of ridiculous.
There's a lot of big quarterbacks that didn't get signed this year, and it's a very quarterback-needy league. So it's going to be interesting to see, what happens in the last couple of weeks and months of free agency to see where some of these guys go.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. All
right, so let's dig back into the draft. There are some other guys you said you wanted to talk about.
Oh, right? Yeah, well, AJ Green has a sidekick now, and John Ross, who's the fastest man in the world.
Yeah.
Apparently. Well, he ran the fastest 40, but that's another team that's going to be scary. The Bengals are the Bengals.
They always seem to make it to the first round of the playoffs and can't go any further.
Marvin Lewis, and he still has a job.
And he still has a job.
Won a playoff game.
And Andy Dalton still has a job. And, AJ McCarron's been, a lot of people are saying that maybe he should be the starter there for a little while.
But John Ross, maybe, he's the next Deshaun Jackson. He could be that guy. And you got A.J. Green. That's another scary tandem. We'll see if John Ross can catch the ball, and, we'll see if he can run routes. But he's fast. So that always helps as a receiver.
I agree.
To beat the defense. So I like that pickup by the Bengals. Yeah. And, also the Saints addressed defense. They got one of the better, corners.
Right. And, that's a big thing. The Saints did need help on defense, and that's, that's been their Achilles heel for the past few years.
Yeah, and also the Vikings picked up a running back.
Yeah,
maybe the next Adrian Peterson, Dalvin Cook. He's also a guy who had some question marks, but they got him pretty. They got him in the middle second round.
Right. Which is I always like these. Look, I think I read a stat the other day, and I'm not 100% sure if this is right, but I think 70-something% of players in the NFL were drafted from the second round on.
Oh.
And to me that's telling, because I think that some of these later round draft picks that you're going to probably talk about a little bit right now, these could be the guys that we start talking about in 2 or 3 years that are going to be the breakout players of the NFL.
Oh, I totally agree. Like I said, okay, so we go down. I had written down, Josh Dobbs, obviously we spoke about in the Cowboys drafting. In the 4th round, they drafted, next Cole Beasley. And the Jets, Jets drafted a receiver. They got a guy from Alabama. I don't know, much about him. They need a quarterback to throw him the ball, but at least they addressed, they need a receiver. They need help everywhere.
It doesn't help that earlier today the news broke that Robbie Anderson just got arrested.
I did hear that.
These are and Devin Smith is out for the season again, where I thought this could have been a breakout season for a guy like Devin Smith if he had if he had some help with whoever's going to be the quarterback on that team. We know that Enunwa and Decker are going to probably wind up being 1 and 2. Devin Smith could have been a really good deep threat, and now they don't have that. So maybe this is where he can, this guy can come in and take over that spot.
Yeah, and maybe I'm looking through my list here, and I got in the 5th round Jeremy Sprinkle. I just thought it was a funny name. Jeremy Sprinkle is a tight end. Went to the Washington. He's from Arkansas, so maybe he's going to be a good tight end in the future.
You never know
with that last name.
I like it.
Yeah,
I can see Sprinkle jerseys all over the place.
And Jets got a running back in the 6th round. Elijah McGuire. Do you know anything about that guy?
What I do know is that he was, impressive enough that, even though he went late, was kind of like, almost like maybe he could be like a utility running back, which is what Bilal Powell was at one point. They looked at him as a utility running back.
Right.
And now look at Bilal Powell now. He may be the better running back on the Jets. And, Matt Forte's not going to be around for a lot longer. Right. You can only imagine this will be his last season in New York with them, dumping guys like Brandon Marshall and, and everything. So, that could be a good pickup to, maybe, use the last name that you just talked about. Sprinkle him in a couple of places and see how he goes.
Sprinkle him. Good one, Albert. So overall, Jets, they draft 2 safeties, in the beginning. Are they going to play 2 safety? Is that what they're going to do this year? Are they going to play
they might. We don't know what's going on with Revis either.
I don't see him coming back. Yeah, it's surprised he's not signed yet.
I don't know if the Jets. The Jets were talking about taking him back at a lower price and making him a safety, but then they went out and drafted 2 safeties.
Right.
So I don't see that being. Look, I love Darrelle Revis. In my time as being a Jets fan, Darrelle Revis may be the best New York Jets player that I've ever seen play. He may be it. I don't know any other guy that's been on that team that was better. You could say
like sad,
You could say like Daniel Tomlinson, but it wasn't like he had his best seasons with the Jets.
It's kind of sad because most teams are the best players, offensive player.
It's going to be a quarterback, a wide receiver, or a running back most of the time. But no, the Jets have always been a defensive-minded team. For a pretty long time.
That's definitely the greatest draft pick the Jets have ever had.
Absolutely. And a guy like Mangold, and is another guy whose name gets thrown out there as being a really a really talented guy who's now leaving, one of the most prolific centers in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that I would love to see Darrelle Revis stay in the Jets organization as a coach. I think he has a lot to offer as being as a defensive coach to teach some of these young guys what it takes to be a top cornerback or even a safety in this league.
Well, if you want someone to win another Super Bowl, just go back to the Patriots, like you did the first time.
I don't want to see that. Please, let's not have that happen.
It makes sense for him because
can we actually talk about the Patriots real quick?
Yeah, sure. What do you want to talk about? How good they are?
Every year we hear about the Patriots drafting some unknown guy who looks like he's going to be like, who's going to go through the Belichick system and be like that big guy. I didn't get that this year. I feel the Patriots didn't. I'm not saying they didn't draft well because they probably did, but I just wasn't overall impressed with what the Patriots did in the draft this year.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. They don't. I mean, did they really? I don't know what needs they really.
Of course, they don't have any.
They got Brandon Cooks. I mean, that they got Brandon Cooks for nothing.
I just hate that.
You know,
I don't want to see him twice a year. I really don't.
And my mistake. Malcolm Butler. Is he on? I mean,
I don't think he went anywhere.
He didn't go because the Saints. I heard the Saints were. I mean, he was going to go there, or I don't know if he was.
I don't
he's a free agent, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, but
which means that they're probably holding out and they probably have a deal on him, and
So in the third round, the Patriots here drafted Derek Rivers from Youngstown State, a defensive end. He's probably going to be really good, because he's not going to be on the Patriots. Yeah, no, of course. But the Patriots are. Let's be honest. Just book them. I mean, how can you not? I mean, we don't talk about predictions for the season coming up, but just book them for the Super Bowl. I mean, unless you think of another team that's really gonna take them down.
I don't think there's a team in the AFC that has enough talent to take down that team.
I mean, just book them for the Super Bowl. Just see where they're gonna play. I hope it's the Cowboys, but the Patriots. It's Patriots.
Butler's not a free agent. He's still on the team.
He's still.
The Saints were trying to trade for him.
I really thought he was gone from the Patriots.
He actually wanted to play for the Saints.
But also, I'm curious to see about Rob Gronkowski. What's up with him?
Well, they
wouldn't be afraid to let him go. Patriots, they just.
Well, I mean, the thing about Gronk is that I think that he's going to come back, and they're taking a little bit of pressure off him. They got Dwayne Allen. I think that they're going to try to alleviate a lot of the pressure that they put on a guy like Gronk. I don't think we're going to see Gronk as the pass catching tight end that we're used to. I think we're going to see him block a lot more. I think we're going to see him play tight end a little bit more, because I think that they're kind of scared that if they keep giving him these big passes down the field, that he's going to wind up doing what he's been doing and just getting hurt.
Yeah, he's just right. No, I agree. He's a monster though, and. I mean, as long as he keeps on, partying and doing his thing, then,
Well, the big thing is that I don't know how many people are crossed over from being wrestling fans on my wrestling podcast. I really didn't address this much, but over WrestleMania weekend, he got involved. And,
I did see that.
Look, let me tell you something.
It's so Gronk to do that.
Let me tell you something. If anybody has a future in, hey, my football career's over, and wants to go become a wrestler, man, Gronk would be.
You think it'd be like really real consideration for him? You think he likes it? No,
he's huge. He's huge into it.
He'd be a huge star.
He has a hook where a guy Mojo Rawley, who is who was a teammate of his in college, is really good friends with him, is in the WWE. WWE would love to have him.
No offense, I'm not into wrestling anymore. I used to be big into wrestling, like back in high school, like 10 years ago. I was big into wrestling, but I would watch if he was out there. He'd be such a good. He'd be a great both. Good guy, bad guy. He'd be so good. Would he be the biggest star in wrestling? You think eventually if he really stuck to it?
Honestly, I can't. It's insane to think this way, but it's Gronk. Yeah, what can he do? What can't that guy do?
Right, that's true. Oh man, we'll talk about entertainment. Like that guy.
He is maximum entertainment.
Oh man,
I hate admitting all this because I hate the team he plays for, but if he played for any other team, I'd probably love him.
Yeah, but he's just awesome.
He is.
That'd be pretty cool to see. Instead of TV, I don't know how he would handle TV, but I mean, he'd be on TV. But
I think he'd be fine. The guy is not camera shy.
That would be pretty cool to see. Who did he fight with?
Oh, there was a big battle royal. A bunch of guys were in there, and
chest bumped somebody or just knocked him down.
A guy decided that he wanted to throw a beer at him, so he got into the ring and shoulder tackled him to the mat. So got into a football stance and went the whole route.
And everybody loved it.
How could you not?
Right, that's true. So hopefully, maybe that's the career. Maybe that's a future for Gronk.
It could be. All right, so anybody else that really stood out for you in the draft, either team-wise or player-wise?
No, nothing. I think we went through most of the guys that I thought. We didn't talk enough about Leonard Fournette, who could be a Zeke Elliott type player. Impact, he could have that impact for the Jaguars this year.
I agree.
And they definitely got a need at running back.
Right. I mean, let's face it. They're what was it? Denard Robinson being their number one for a couple of years.
Robinson, and they have Yeldon and Ivory.
T.J. Yeldon, who didn't really work out too well.
Ivory,
Ivory, who I thought was going to be huge for them to be, complement a guy like Yeldon, and that's just Yeldon turned it on a little bit towards the end of the season. But I mean, this could be a really big get for a team like the Jaguars.
Yeah, and they also added a top offensive tackle in Cam Robinson. From Alabama.
So, I mean, I like the fact that a team like that is rebuilding themselves. Right. I mean, we know that, they looked like they could have been, an 8-8, 9,
right.
10.
And I love that Tom Coughlin is running the show now. I think it's a big pickup for them. Talk about a football mind. He's a Super Bowl champ. We'll see how they do. They're definitely going to step up this year.
I think so. I think they should win a few more games, and maybe this is a way for them to build for the future.
But like I said, my rookie of the year is McCaffrey. I think he's going to have a monster season. I think, catching the ball, running the ball. And defensively, I mean, I guess Myles Garrett, I mean, if he's that good.
I'm hoping that's the case. I really am.
I hope so also. So we'll see.
All right. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to kind of add up to wrap everything up? Or
pretty much the Cowboys are going to be awesome again. That's what I got to say. The Cowboys are going to be – I can't wait to see what Dak and Zeke do in their second year. I don't see any decline in their game. Zeke and Dak. I mean, there was no fluke. I mean, I told you I thought Zeke was going to be exactly what he did last year. And
Dak was called it from the beginning.
And Dak, I thought he would. I didn't think he had that good of a season, but I thought he would handle his own. I thought he can win.
Well, I mean, let's face it. When he first got drafted, nobody thought he was going to be their starter, and then he gets thrust into this huge spot, and man, he just did not back down.
He had a great offensive line. But the guy you can see the guy is a winner. You can see the pressure is not too big for him. That playoff game was back and forth. It was tough to see, but you know what? He has the experience now.
I agree.
I can't wait to see what he does next year.
Well, I mean, I can't wait to see what the NFL holds next year. The next couple of weeks that me and Avi are going to come to you, we're going to do is we're going to pick a division. We're going to break it down. We're going to pick it apart, and we're going to see where we think those 4 teams are going to land, and we'll do that every couple of weeks until the season starts up, and then we can really, really start getting into one of our favorite topics. Fantasy football.
Oh, yeah.
So, stay tuned for that. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. I know it seems like the NFL season is so far away, but stick with us once a week, and, we're going to get you there. It's going to seem a lot quicker.
Yeah. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait. It's gonna be amazing.
I can never wait for the NFL season to start. So with that being said, this has been the Opening Whistle Podcast. I'm Albert Albanese,
and I'm Avi Schiffman.
So give us a like on Facebook. It's facebook.com/the Slam Sessions Podcast Network, and give us a little bit of a thumbs up on Twitter too. It's at the Slam Sessions, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening to the Opening Whistle, which is a part of the Slam Sessions Podcast Network. You can find us on Twitter at The Slam Sessions. We'll see you guys next time.